Yo guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Hillman here. So as most of you already know, I just graduated med school. So a few weeks ago I graduated med school. And after that, I decided to treat myself with some trips, or at least one trip that was the main treat, and then a couple of other trips planned coincidentally around that trip as well. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys a breakdown of how much I spent in all these trips. So I in total went to 6 countries in the space of 1 month. So I'm going to be breaking down what costs I incurred, how much the flights cost and everything, just giving you guys the details which you guys need to know about these trips. Because a lot of you follow me on Instagram and see me traveling around, think it takes a lot of money to travel. And I hope with this video to be able to debunk that idea or that perception that you need a lot of money to travel, because as you would potentially be able to see, some of these trips are expensive, but some of them are really not. And even the ones that are expensive, if you spread out the cost by planning properly, you can save up a lot of money with these trips. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. So the countries I went to basically are Germany for a few days, and then I came back, and then a day later I went to Italy, to Rome. Then I came back a day later, I went to Manchester for like 2 days, and then I came back a day later, I went to Switzerland, and now I'm back. But in Switzerland, I also went to France, and then now I'm back. And tomorrow, I came back yesterday from Switzerland. Tomorrow I'm leaving to Ireland, but Ireland is family, so I'm not going to spend anything. So I can more or less anticipate how much I'm going to spend in Ireland based on how much I always spend in Ireland, which is never really a lot. So I'll also mention how much I spend there, but the focus is going to be on all the other trips because those were more or less the expensive ones and the ones where I was visiting other people who are not necessarily family. So I'm going to be taking it country by country and then breaking down how much I spent on the flights, accommodation, and any other things which I spent money for on those trips. So the first one is Germany. With Germany, I was with a friend of mine, with his parents as well. So there, basically, he picked me up, drove me to Germany. I spent like 10 euros on the trains to go there because it's like a small German village. And on the way back, because it was a weekday, I just checked in with my student travel and it was free. So I didn't really pay for the return journey. And while there, they cooked and everything. So I did not spend a penny. So like all I spent was the train ticket to get to Germany. So that was Germany, easy. I spent like 3 days there and was just home eating, sleeping, running and stuff like that. So that was a pretty cheap one. The second trip, which is one of the most expensive ones, or is the most expensive one from this list, is Italy, Rome. And Rome is part of my yearly travel goals because every year I have like travel goals, and the goal for this year is to visit at least half of the world wonders. So that, of course, it's like the 7 world wonders. You have one in Rome, China, Brazil, Peru, like you know the list, 7 of them. So of course, the first one, which is the closest one for me as well, is Rome. So I booked the flight for Rome way in advance because that's part of my yearly travel goal. So of course, because I'm going to Rome, I also had to book the Colosseum and stuff like that. And Rome was like a solo trip. I normally don't go solo trips. I normally go to visit people or go with people to visit places. But this one, because it was part of my goal and no one was opportune to ask a couple of people if they wanted to go, but no one really had the time to go or wanted to go. So I had to go on my own. So that also means all the costs for like accommodation and stuff like that I had to incur by myself. But for Rome, the flight was 47 euros 98. So the flight from Eindhoven to Rome and back was 47 euros 98. And that is because I booked it way in advance. I booked it with Wizz Air, but I just did like a Google search and eventually Wizz Air came out as the cheapest one. But sometimes, guys, it's crazy how cheap this flight can get if you book in advance. Like normally I don't fly for anything above 100 euros in Europe. Like my is 100 euros. Unless I really have to be there, like sometimes I have to go visit my sisters at specific times in London or Ireland, and then the flights for those periods are like really expensive, and then it can go above 100, but normally I try to keep all my flights which I'm traveling within Europe under 100 euros. For example, Rome, because I checked way in advance, I booked this flight in December or November of last year, and when I booked from Eindhoven to Rome and back was 47 euros 98. I'm going to attach the confirmation here so you can see that as well. So the flight was that. So that's the first thing I booked. And what I always do is book the flight, the rest will figure itself out because I'm booking months in advance. So I don't know how many days, I don't know if I'm going to be alone or someone is going to join, as a result of which you have to share this cost. So then I always book the flight first, make sure that I have that covered because that like really fluctuates in price. But the other things pretty much are stable if you check over a period of time. But the flights can really go up and down like crazy. So I always book that first, get that out of the way, and then I figure the rest out. So next thing for Rome was, of course, accommodation. Getting closer to the date, I have to book the accommodation. And because I was going there mainly for the Colosseum, I had to book the Colosseum. Like I wanted a proper guided tour and everything. So I booked that as well. The guided tour was like 54 euros for the guided tour with like an English guide and a tour of the Roman Forum and also the Colosseum, which is a really good tour. I'll definitely recommend it. It's from the company Head Out, and the tour guide was really great. I forgot her name, but it was a really great tour guide. So that was 54, booked that as well. And then I had to book the accommodation. And with the accommodation, I stayed at the Free Hostel. It's a great place, pretty much within walking distance from the central station where you arrive in Rome if you take the train from the airport, and they also have buses from the airport and to the airport from the central station. So it's pretty accessible and it's within walking distance. So it's really great as well. Even when I had to take my flight back, which was really early in the morning, like 4 a.m., I had to like leave the hostel to the central station. I could easily walk there within 15 minutes. So that was like great. So I booked that in advance, but the good thing with the free hostel was you can book it in advance but not pay to get there. So that was a good thing. But the hostel in total cost 196 euros 70 for 5 nights, because I was there from Wednesday. I arrived on Wednesday early in the afternoon and I left on Monday early in the morning. So that's in total 5 nights. So for 5 nights I spent 196 euros 70 divided by 5. Yeah, like about 40 euros. Yeah, like about 40 euros per night, which is okay. And the hostel was quite good. Like they had this nest system where you're like completely closed off in your little nest, which is a great system. And that was one of the selling things for me as well on the website. So I'll definitely recommend the hostel as well. It was a great hostel. This is not sponsored, but I just liked my stay in the hostel. And the price was okay for 5 nights. So then I had booked the flight, I had booked the tour, the main tour I wanted to do, and I also booked my accommodation. And these are the main things which normally take up money, right? And these are like booked way in advance. So those were the costs that came before I went to Rome. And then when I went to Rome, I ate out a lot because I wanted to really try the carbonara. I'd heard from a lot of people that carbonara is like the main thing from Rome, so I want to try the carbonara as well. Had a lot of pizza, the small ones you can just find anywhere, and also like proper pizza joints. And then got a couple of souvenirs and also just paid for small things here and there while walking. I also booked some other tours last minute, but those are like small things, so it didn't really take a lot of money. But in total, what I spent in Rome with like the trains to and from the airport, buses to and from the airport, eating out and also getting souvenirs amounted to 273 euros 27. So that's how much I spent in Rome in total. So the whole Rome trip, including the hostel, everything I spent while in Rome, the tour I booked before for the Colosseum and the Roman Forum, the flight, all those things together cost 571 euros 95. And that's for a 4.5 day trip in Rome. So divided by 4.5, that'll give you roughly like 120 euros a day for the whole thing, which is not bad. Like I've spent way more money on some trips, like the one to Iceland. We spent way more money than this because you had to rent a car and everything. So I spent 571 euros 95 for a 4.5 day trip in Rome, where I got to like see pretty much everything I wanted to see as well, and also went to the Vatican. So that is a pretty good deal, if you ask me, compared to like all my other travels. And this was the most expensive trip, and because this is part of my yearly goals, I was willing to sacrifice this. And the thing is, it didn't feel like that much because I spread it out. You know, like I booked the hostel in advance, booked the flight in advance, booked the tour in advance, and the other things which I spent in Rome, like that didn't really feel heavy. But if you look at the whole thing, still, it's not that bad. So depending on what you want to do there and how you want to travel, if you're the person who really likes luxurious eating, because I didn't really go to luxurious places to eat, I pretty much kept everything within my, I cut my quote according to my size. But this is how much it can amount to for a trip like this to Rome. But the flights and the accommodation are mostly the most expensive things. But if you book this way in advance, that can really save you a lot of costs. So that was Rome. Let me know if you want to find out more about the places I stayed in, the hostels, the flights where I booked and everything, and I would definitely be sure to comment that as well if you're interested. But that was Rome. So that was the first trip. I stayed there for like 4.5 days, and then I came back, and then the next day I had to fly to Manchester. In Manchester, it was a friend's birthday I was going for. Initially, I had planned my trip to Switzerland on a Thursday, but she called me, asked me if I could make it for her birthday. She has a YouTube channel as well. She made a whole vlog about the birthday day, so it was really special. I'll attach the link here if you want to check it out as well. But I booked the flight to Switzerland for Thursday, but she messaged me, so I had to like reschedule that flight and then book the one to Manchester. So I booked my flight to Manchester. The flight to Manchester cost 85 euros 51 because I pretty much booked it in I was limited to that time. If I was more flexible with my times, it would have definitely cost less than that. But because I was restricted to those 2 days, from Tuesday to Thursday, I had to pay the amount. And that was 85 euros 51, still under my 100 euros cut. But this is normally on the more expensive end for a place like Manchester. If you're going to England or popular destinations, you don't have to pay this amount of money. Like it's normally way cheaper than this. Last time I went to Manchester was definitely under 40 euros. But this, because I was restricted, I had to pay this amount. Still, this amount is not that bad for a round trip to Manchester from Amsterdam and back. So I spent 85.51 on the flight. And then while I was in Manchester, a friend I was visiting paid the Uber for me to get to her place. She cooked for me and everything. I went there for the birthday party, so I didn't really have to like go to other places. I met up with another friend who was coincidentally in Manchester as well. We had lunch together. It was fun. So in total, what I spent while in Manchester, and this includes like eating out, going for ice cream with a friend of mine, and then paying the Uber back to the airport, because I paid the Uber back to the airport. That in total was 58 euros 5. 58 euros 5. So in total, all I spent for the Manchester trip, flights and including everything I spent there, was 143 euros 56. Crazy. And I was there for 2 days. So that's how much I spent for the whole Manchester trip. And of course, spread out because I booked the flight way in advance. So that was Manchester. Geneva, which is a sweet one, because Switzerland is always like crazy expensive. I've been to Switzerland a couple of times. First time I went there, we drove through Zurich, and we had like McDonald's at, at Zurich. And McDonald's was like crazy expensive. Like we paid like 50 euros for like a normal cheeseburger and stuff. So we were like, never again. We never stayed there. We never slept there because Switzerland is just ridiculously expensive. So when I go to Switzerland, it's either I go visiting someone or I just drive through Switzerland because I'm not willing to pay that accommodation prices there. It's just like ridiculous how much you pay there for accommodation and just paying to eat around and everything if you don't live there and you don't earn the Swiss salaries. And that's one thing about me in general. I most likely would go to a place to visit someone, see someone, or spend time with someone. I'm just all about people. And I think if you can go to a city, spend time with someone, like they show you around their city because they're there, they know more about it. You don't have to pay for accommodation because it's just more fun if you spend time with people you know as opposed to like paying for a hostel, paying for a hotel. It's just shooting multiple birds with one stone. So I'm most likely, if I am in a city where I know someone and the vibe between us is good, and I'm someone who like values relationships, I always try to maintain the bridges I have with people. If I'm in that city, I'm most likely to stay with someone I know than go book a hotel or hostel. And of course, now I'm a student, so that's like just budget friendly. But I think in the future as well, even if I have the means to pay for something, I'd rather stay with people if it's not inconveniencing them or inconveniencing me. For example, if I'm going for work and I'm restricted to like, I need certain amenities and stuff, then it might be easier staying in a hotel. But if that's not the case and you can stay with someone, why not just do that and like save up a lot of stuff and also enjoy company together and like get them to show you their city. So that's what I always do. And Switzerland was one of those trips where friends came over to the Netherlands, they just moved to Switzerland and they were like, yeah, things are happening, changes are happening. One of them is a medical student and the other one is doing something similar to what I want to do as well. So it was like, yeah, we need to catch up more, but they didn't have that much time here. So I was like, how about I book, I come and visit you guys, right? Depending on how cheap the flights are. So I went to check the flights the same day I spoke with them and the flights were similar to going to Manchester. So I was like, this is doable. Checked up with them to see if the dates work for them as well. It worked for them. So I booked my flight to Geneva because they live around Geneva. And the flight to Geneva cost me 88 euros 91. Again, under the 100 because that's like my reference point. Under 100, I'm like, okay, that's doable. Otherwise, I need to like really plan for it. I booked it immediately, confirmed with them, and they were like, yeah, everything's great, sweet. And that was the flight booked. I booked that like months in advance. I booked that in December as well. So now I was in Geneva, arrived there. They like booked my train from the airport to where they were, and then I just walked from the train station to their house because it's pretty close to their house. Got there, they took care of me. Everything, food, drove around, place I wanted to see, went to Interlaken, beautiful views. We were supposed to go to Liechtenstein, but the drive to Liechtenstein was like a lot longer than we anticipated. So we decided to go for like Interlaken because it was close by. Paid for everything. There was nothing I thought about wanting, which they did not make sure I had, you know? So like the hospitality was just really, really amazing. Like I left there feeling like, wow, I'm gonna miss just being spoiled, you know, like just a couple of days not having to do anything, just being taken care of that way. It's nice sometimes. So I was there from, today's what day? I came back on Monday and I was there from Friday. So Friday, I came in the evening and I left Monday evening as well. So I spent more or less Saturday, Sunday, Monday there, 3 full days. And the only thing I paid for in Switzerland, was a souvenir because I'm trying to collect souvenirs from wherever I go. So I bought a souvenir which was like 8 francs, Swiss francs, which is like 8.47 euros. So I paid for that and I paid for something else as well in the airport. So in total, I spent 26 euros 37 for my whole Swiss trip. Plus the flight, which was 88.91. In total, I spent 115 euros 28. So for someone who goes to Switzerland, spends all the days, visits places in Interlaken, goes up the mountains, comes back and stuff like that, this is nothing. Like I spent 115 euros 28 on the whole thing, flight and also what I spent in Switzerland. But of course, this is thanks to the connections, the people who were hospitable enough to take me in, feed me and all the kind of things. And that's one thing I really like to emphasize when people ask me how I'm able to travel that much. I really always try to emphasize the fact that it's really all about people. Like people. I think people can really, like together we can just do a lot more than you can do by yourself. And it's like seeing how much I can see the world and how much I can travel. And of course, it's not just, it's sometimes you can see it as using people, especially if you have like an African mindset like I had, like you're just using people for what you can get from them. But no, when I go to these places, I really learn from people. This time you share physically in the same place really does something with your bond, which sometimes you just cannot explain, but it's like something which when you experience it, you know sometimes it's worth whatever money you're spending to go there and just spend time with people physically. Like when I was in Manchester, just seeing how much my presence meant for Amina on her birthday. It was like money can't buy that. You know, money can't, like how you make people feel is what people remember much more than what you actually do to them, you know, or do for them. So I think it's just that the connection part that comes with just being there with people is a big for me. And like the accommodation and the cheapness and, you know, getting to travel to these places is like an added bonus. And it's just, I have the luxury of knowing people all over the world. So it's like when I go to visit people, I'm automatically most of the time visiting new places as well. So that's cool. But I really think the people part of it is what really enables me travel that much, and also enables a lot of these costs to be as low as they are. Like I'm going to Ireland tomorrow and my sister's probably picking me up from the airport. Get home, food is there. Mostly I'm not doing anything in Ireland. I'm just running around meeting a couple of friends, but they come to me, or I drive my sister's car to go see them. So I don't really spend money there either. Or unless I'm taking the bus back to the airport or taking the bus from the airport sometimes. And then that's like 10 euros, 20 euros max, how much I spend in Ireland. I never really buy stuff there. My sister has everything covered. So that also makes that like whole thing just, you know, same thing. I'll spend like 20 euros in Ireland. So that has been it for this video, guys. That has been a brief rundown of how much these different trips cost me. It's difficult to say how much I spent in this last 2 weeks I've been traveling, because like the costs have been spread out. But still, the costs I've spent over the last 2 weeks traveling have been under 500 euros. And I've gone to Italy, Germany, France, Switzerland, Geneva, Lausanne, Bern, different cities in Switzerland, Interlaken, which I've wanted to go to for the longest time. The views were just impeccable. Being able to see all this stuff, experience all this stuff, and not spend ridiculously a huge amount of money. Like I think people who go on vacations in the summer, like to one place, spend way more than I've spent here. Like in total, 600, 300, 900. I think people easily spend like 1,000 plus on one trip in the summer. Of course, that's like a luxury trip. You chill on the beach, you have like, you know, martini, all these fancy cocktails. I don't have that. Like me, I travel to see people and spend time with people and learn about new places, learn about new cultures. So if that's not your thing, you want the fancy life, you definitely spend more money. But this is for people who just want to like do or see the world in the same way I want to see the world, like different cultures, people, spending quality time, learning about history, learning about how we can improve ourselves. If that's you, then this could be how cheap these trips are as well. But if you're on the other end of the spectrum and you want to go luxury and chilling and vibes, yeah, you definitely spend more. But this video is for people who are like me and want to see the world in a similar way like I see the world as well. So yeah, guys, that has been it for this video. Let me know if it was helpful. Let me know if you want to know any more information about certain things about how I plan or how I do travel and stuff like that. Let me know in the comment section, and I'll be definitely sure to make a video about that if that's possible. But until next time, guys, take care. Hope you like this video. Like, subscribe, share if you like the videos I make. Share with someone who might also want to see this video, who needs help with just planning and visualizing traveling. And until next time, guys, stay blessed and peace.